Hi book lovers, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be talking about Goodreads' top 20 best romance books of 2022 because I read them all. These are the 20 books that are taken straight from Goodreads. They're Goodreads Choice Awards in the romance category. They use whatever algorithm or data that they have to compile this list of the best romance books of 2022, and today I'm going to be talking about whether they're actually the best or not. I'm gonna rate every single book, and I'm also gonna give my own ranking of this list of their top 20 from worst to best. So if you were wondering, which books you should read from this list, I will let you know. I also do have some related videos on the Goodreads Choice Awards where I make my predictions for this year and also do my own little awards thing where I picked the biggest and the most popular books of the year and let my followers vote for which one was the best. So make sure to check those videos out. And before I get into my ratings and my rankings, I do want to share the sponsor for today's video. Today's video is sponsored by Book of the Month. If you haven't heard of them, Book of the Month is a monthly book subscription box. Every month you get a credit that you can use to pick any of their hardcovers for that month. You can pick from 5 to 7 hardcovers and they all come in different genres. And the best thing about Book of the Month is that it is risk-free. You can choose to skip the month if you aren't interested in any of that month's books, and that credit will roll over to the next month. For the month of December, there is a special deal going on. New members can join Book of the Month for $5 using the code WONDER. For December's picks, I got these two books, a romance and a fantasy. The romance is Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cochrane. This is an FF romance that's set around Christmas, so this one would be great if you're looking for a holiday read. And my fantasy pick is Babel by R.F. Kuang. It's a historical fantasy epic that's set in Oxford in the early 1800s. The other books that you can choose from this month are The Circus Train by Amita Parikh, All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham, and The Light Pirate by Lily Brooks Dalton. I personally really like Book of the Month. I'm a subscriber myself, and I really love the option of being able to skip a month. Again, if you want to join, you can do so. Get your first book for just $5 using the code WONDER. Make sure to check out the link in my description to get your first box. Thank you again to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. Okay, back to the top 20 romance books of 2022 according to Goodreads. I'm going to be giving my thoughts and my rating for each book, starting with the book with the lowest number of ratings all the way up to the book with the highest number of ratings. You would think that Goodreads uses the number of ratings as the guideline to choosing the best books of the year, but apparently they don't, because there are definitely books that have more ratings than some of these books in this top 20. But anyway, the first book on this list is the one with 17.8 thousand ratings. It is The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. This one was unfortunately a 3-star read. Very okay, which is really sad because of how much I enjoyed Mia Sosa's previous release, The Worst Best Man. That one was huge, had so much hype, and was also nominated in the Goodreads Choice Awards the year that it released. I love that book, so I did have high hopes for this follow-up book, which is about Dean, who was a side character in The Worst Best Man, but unfortunately Dean just wasn't as good in his own book, which sucked. I also really wanted to love The Wedding Crasher because it's a fake dating romance, but even that was a letdown. I felt no chemistry between these characters. The spark and the wit and the banter that was in The Worst Best Man was completely missing in The Wedding Crasher. Next at 18.1 thousand ratings is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. This one is one of 4 books that I had not already read by the time the Goodreads Choice Awards list came out. I've seen this cover around, but I never really heard that much about this book, at least not from the people that I follow or in the romance community. And I'm pretty sure there's a reason for that, because the book was probably not meant for romance readers, or at least the book was not marketed towards romance readers. It does have an interesting premise, and I remember when I read the blurb, I was like, okay, I think I could like this. Unfortunately, it did not go that well. I gave this one 3 stars. It's an age gap romance with a slight forbidden aspect to it, but not really. It's a romance between an artist heroine and her sort of friend, sort of potential suitor's father. Obviously, the whole age gap part was what sold me on this when I first read the blurb, but the way that the romance played out was very strange. Faye and Alim only knew each other for a matter of weeks before they decided to throw away everything to be together. I could feel the lust and I could feel why they wanted each other, but I did not see how how they actually fell in love. It was so fast and it didn't really feel like it had any sort of romance development. I was way more interested in the vibes of the beginning of the book, where it was about the heroine and her career as an artist, Faye and her best friend living their hot girl summer lives, and also Faye learning to deal with the grief of losing her husband years ago. It had a good premise with a lot of potential. Again, there's age gap, but it just did not work out that well for me. Next is Thank You for Listening by Julia Whelan, which has 18.5 thousand ratings. This one was a 3.5 to 4-star read. I'm still trying to decide what my rating is, but it was good, but not great or amazing. It was my first time reading Julia Whelan. I've been curious about her for a while. I knew she came out with the Oxford years ago, and she's also an audiobook narrator, which is actually what this book is about. It was very interesting reading about a heroine who works in audiobook narrating. It was genuinely very fun, but the romance is extremely predictable. I wish there was a little bit more mystery to it so that we could be kept guessing on who the hero is, but you pretty much know who he is from the beginning of the book. He's an anonymous audiobook narrator who co-narrates with the heroine Swanee, but you pretty much know his real identity from the start of the book. I will say though, if you like epistolary romances, you will probably enjoy Thank You for Listening, because there's a lot of texting, a lot of emails, because obviously the hero is anonymous, so the heroine has no idea who he is for a majority of the book. But I mean, this book wasn't too bad. I still somewhat enjoyed myself. Next on the list is The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling at 19.9 thousand ratings. This book was so damn boring. I gave it 2 stars. I pretty much instantly forgot what the book was about as soon as I finished it, because there was nothing memorable about it. I'm actually genuinely shocked that this book made it this year, because at least the first book in the series that did get nominated last year was a fun paranormal rom-com, but this book was so lame, and I do not think it should have been nominated at all. It's a romance between 2 witches. They are rivals. It's rivals to lovers. They both have shops that are competitors and that are located right across the street from each other. And even though it sounded good, it was so underwhelming to actually read. And then there is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This one has a bit of a jump in ratings. It has 31.6 thousand ratings. It's an FF small town romance that I really enjoyed. I gave it 4 stars. It was my first time reading this author. I'm pretty sure the author was formerly a YA author. This is her first adult romance and it was great. I love the small town feels. I love the sense of found family in here. The writing was great. All the characters had such a personality and were very well developed. It was a great first book for me from this author. And then there's Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma with 33.7 thousand ratings. This was a fun read for me that I enjoyed. I give it 4 stars. It's very much a silly rom-com. It's actually inspired by The Taming of the Shrew, so the main characters do not get along. It's enemies to lovers. There's so much good banter and chemistry. It was just a really fun time, and there is some steam in it, which I very much appreciated, because you never know when it comes to these illustrated cutesy covers. I always just assume that there's little to nothing when it comes to steam. That way I won't be disappointed, but this one, thankfully, there was some. Katee Robert got nominated for Electric Idol, which has 44,000 ratings. She's one of the few authors that got nominated for the first time last year in 2021 and then got nominated again in 2022. Electric Idol is the Psyche and Eros retelling in the Dark Olympus series, which I'm sadly just not a huge fan of. I have yet to read a book in the series that I truly enjoyed. This one was a 2.5 star read for me. I liked it slightly more than Neon Gods, which is why it gets that 0.5 star bump, but it was still just not the best, and I've come to realize that Katee Robert just isn't for me. I've had a lot more misses than hits, and I can't seem to vibe with her writing when it comes to books that are not truly contemporary. This one isn't quite fantasy, but it's still some sort of alternate universe, and world building is just not there. It is a marriage of convenience though, for anyone who loves that trope. It was pretty much the only thing that I did like about it. Next is The American Rooming Experiment by Elena Armas. It's got 51,000 ratings, and Elena is another author who blew up big last year. I gave this one 4 stars. It was not the 5-star read that the Spanish Love Deception was. I sadly didn't think it was as good as her debut. Not to say that it was bad, but it's just really hard to live up to Aaron Blackford, but it's still a really cute read with a very sweet hero. Even though it's another fake dating romance from Elena Armas, it does have a very different vibe to it, which I do appreciate because this does stand out and feels different from her debut. And then there's Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman, which has 54.2 thousand ratings, and this was the only book on the list that I literally had never heard of and never seen. I was like, what is this book and why is it here, when I saw it being nominated, which is funny because it does have over 50,000 ratings and I still just never came across it. So it is a big book, I'll give it that, but I did not like it. I give it 2 stars. It's a second chance romance, which is my favorite, but my god, the romance was so annoying. We have a heroine who pines over the hero who is a celebrity. They had this little thing over a weekend when she went to interview him. They formed this connection, but nothing really came out of it, and she spends the next, what, decade pining over him. And there was absolutely no reason for this pining because Gabe was just the most underwhelming hero ever. I could not understand why she liked him, why she loved him so much, because he just wasn't giving anything. So how this book blew up, how it got so big, and how it got nominated, I will never know. And then we have The Bodyguard by Katherine. This one has 63.8 thousand ratings, and it is my one and only 5-star read of this list. I freaking adore this book. I had the most amazing time listening to the audio. The narrator did such a great job with Hannah and her voice. Hannah is hilarious, but also very emotional. Like, she pretends to not be emotional, but deep down she really is. And I loved that this was a fake dating romance between a celebrity hero, a famous actor celebrity hero, and his new female bodyguard. Jack is a sweetheart. I was swooning over him, and I just love the story so much. It made me feel all the feels. Honestly, I don't know why I don't read Katherine more, because the other book that I read from her I also really loved. Next on this list is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This one has 66.9 thousand ratings, and unfortunately this is my least favorite Abby Jimenez book. I gave it 3 stars. I do feel like I'm in the minority for this because most people seem to feel that this one is their favorite from Abby Jimenez. I don't know, I just felt like I was missing something. I did not connect with the characters at all. I could see that it was a sweet romance, but I just could not feel it. I did want to love it more just because we have an older heroine, younger man kind of romance, but it just didn't work for me. And I also felt like everything that was happening outside of the romance overshadowed the romance itself. So this one sadly just wasn't for me. This next book I really had no plans of ever reading because the first book that I read from this author I did not like, so I kind of wrote her off, but the second book got nominated, so I'm like, okay, fine, I will read this book, and thank God I did because I enjoyed it so much. It's Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. To say that I'm surprised by how much I enjoyed it would be an understatement. I had so much fun with it. I adored this romance. I gave it 4 stars. Oh, and we have 92.2 thousand ratings for this book. I saved this book for last. I had 4 books to read to complete the 20 books, and this one was dead last because I was kind of dreading it, but it ended up being so great. The cold-hearted, grumpy hero was perfection, and I love the marriage of convenience. I just love seeing a heroine knock down those ice-cold walls of the heroes, getting to see him grow soft for the heroine and only for the heroine. It was great. I'm so glad I was forced to read it for this video because it would not have happened otherwise. The hero did have to do some growling at the end, which, yes, is my kryptonite, but the whole book itself is fantastic. And then we have Twisted Hate by Anna Huang with 96.5 thousand ratings. This series is huge. I was very surprised that the first book in the series did not get nominated last year. At least I don't think it did. But I guess once the publisher picked up the series, Goodreads was like, okay, we'll nominate you now. But yes, this is Twisted Hate, and it is my favorite book in the Twisted series. I give it 4.5 stars. It is enemies to lovers perfection, and it is so damn hot with all the dirty talk from Josh. We love to see an Asian hero doing his thing. The best way to describe this book is fire. The chemistry was fire, the sex was fire, all the hate and lust and love. fire. Josh and Jules were so much fun to read, and they are easily my favorite couple of the series. The rest of the books all have over 100,000 ratings on Goodreads. This one is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. It has 143,000 ratings. It's Ali Hazelwood's second book, which had a lot to live up to after her debut. The Love Hypothesis blew up. I gave this one 4 stars. It wasn't quite the perfect read, the perfect 5-star read that the Love Hypothesis was, but I still really adored it. Yes, it did have a similar feel to the Love Hypothesis, but I didn't mind that at all. Give me more enemies to lovers, give me more academia settings, give me more heroes who pine like crazy. I will probably never get tired of reading about that. But yes, Bea and Levi, adorable. Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey has 174,000 ratings. This book, this duet is huge. It Happened One Summer was one of my favorite reads from last year, so Hook, Line, and Sinker did have a lot to live up to. Unfortunately, it didn't quite meet my expectations. I gave it 3.5 stars. I adore friends to lovers romances, maybe even a little bit more than enemies to lovers, but I felt like I was missing something in Hannah and Fox's romance. It was missing that charm that I really loved reading in It Happened One Summer. A few things felt forced, and it was also surprisingly slow burn, which I have never ever come across in a Tessa Bailey book, and it didn't exactly go well. So I was really sad when I read this one and didn't end up loving it. And then we have Every Summer After by Carley Fortune. This is another very big book this year. It has 184,000 ratings. It has a second chance romance, a former friends to lovers romance. It has everything that I love, everything that I should have loved, but I didn't. I give it 2 stars, and I am definitely the minority for this book. It's hard not to compare this book to Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren when the premises are so similar, and Love in Other Words absolutely blew this one out of the water. This one just does not compare. But even if I didn't try to compare the two, I did not like the romance. I especially did not like how the story was set up, where most of the book takes place in the past and we only get a few chapters set in the present, when the present is so much more important than the past. And I just cannot get over how the actual second chance romance, the present day romance, took place over what, 2 days? They fell back in love in 2 days, and that was that. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe in the romance. Like, there's no way these two actually fell back in love in 2 days and just swept everything under the rug. No. So this one was a huge fail for me. Moving on to a book with 216,000 ratings, we have Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. If you follow me, if you watch me, you probably already know how much I love this book. This was a 4.5 star read for me. Almost very close to perfection, but still, I loved it. It was such a wonderful small town romance. I loved our grumpy hero who is very alpha and possessive and protective, even though he's totally clueless about why he is feeling that way towards the heroine. And we have a kick-ass heroine who takes none of the hero shit. This book had me entertained from start to finish. Even though it is a huge book, I could not put it down. It was my first time reading Lucy's Score as well, and I can definitely see why so many people love her. I fell in love with her writing. I loved the main characters. I loved all the secondary characters. It was so much fun. And now we're down to the last 3 books with the highest number of ratings, and they are big books. The third biggest book is It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, but I will say, give it a few months and I'm pretty sure that this book will be even bigger than the #1 book on this list, because this book only came out a few months ago and it already has over 300,000 ratings, which is insane. But at the same time, it is a sequel to Colleen Hoover's biggest book, so I'm not surprised. Did I love it? No, I gave this one 3 stars. It was very average for me. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was a bit of a letdown compared to It Ends With Us, and it honestly felt a little unnecessary. The second biggest book of 2022 is Booklovers by Emily Henry. This has 461,000 ratings. It's Emily Henry's third book, her third nomination in a row for the Goodreads Trust Awards, to no one's surprise. And sadly, it was my least favorite book of hers. Not that it was bad, but I gave her other 2 books 5 stars, so giving this one 4 stars was very, very sad for me. And I really thought I was gonna love it too. It was in my 5-star predictions video and everything. But I don't know, I just struggled to connect with the main characters here, Charlie and Nora. They were cute together, yes, but I just did not feel the love that I felt, that connection I felt with her two other couples. Anytime I read a book about books, it feels very meta, and this book is the most bookish book that you will ever come across. It's very immersed in publishing, which did get to be a lot, and the romance, I wasn't really feeling it for a long time. So Booklovers was the weakest Emily Henry book for me so far. And then the biggest book of 2022 with 607,000 ratings is none other than another Colleen Hoover book, Reminders of Him. I have the paperback for this, I just don't know where it went, or I might have let someone borrow it and forgot about it. But this book is Colleen Hoover's early 2022 romance. She came out with 2 books this year, and since this book came out sooner, it does have more ratings, but again, I truly feel like It Starts With Us is gonna beat this one eventually. But this one is currently the biggest, and I gave this one 4 stars. It's not my favorite Colleen Hoover book, but it's definitely better than the last few books that I read from her. Her latest few books haven't been my favorite just because they're more on the women's fiction side, and Reminders of Him is definitely women's fiction-y, but I didn't mind it so much here. I found myself more invested in the heroine's journey than the actual romance. It is a very depressing book though, I will say. You will feel devastated for the heroine for basically the entire book. It is not a fun read, it is not an easy read. There is so much heartache and heartbreak for the heroine. I was feeling so bad for her. I would have loved if it got a little bit more at the end because it wrapped up way too neatly and quickly for me, but overall I did enjoy myself. I went in with no expectations really and came out with a really good book. So those were my thoughts and my ratings of the 20 books on the Goodreads Choice Awards romance category. Are they all truly the best books of 2022? If I had any say, that would be a no. But I will say this is the year that I read a majority of these books. I read 16 of the 20. I enjoyed quite a few of them, and some of them are even my personal favorites of the year. So if I had to rank these from worst to best, number 20, the worst one of the bunch is Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. Number 19, The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. Number 18, Every Summer After by Carley Fortune. Number 17, Electric Idol by Katee Robert. Number 16, It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. Number 15, You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Koike Emezi. Number 14, Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Number 13, The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. Number 12, Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. Number 11, Thank You for Listening by Julia Whelan. Number 10, Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. Number 9, The American Rune Experiment by Elena Armas. Number 8, Booklovers by Emily Henry. Number 7, Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. Number 6, Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. Number 5, Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. Number 4, Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. Number 3, Twisted Hate by Anna Huang. Number 2, Things We Never Got Over by Lacey Score. And number 1 on this list for me is The Bodyguard by Katherine Center. The Bodyguard is my favorite book of the best 20 romances that Goodreads picked. Is it truly the best book of 2022? For me, no, but it's the best book that I've got here. If anyone wants to share their own rankings or their own ratings for these books, please feel free to. I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. I'm curious what book everyone voted for, and we'll see who the winner ends up being. As always, links to all the books that I've talked about will be down in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!